Have you had some odd things happen to you during the day and you just wonder to yourself, is this normal? Is this common? I see this a lot, and we're going to go through ones that are just weird, and yeah, so here we go. So it's like we have to look for the job in order to get paid, and we as subs take that effort and get that confidence up to be like, okay, I'm going to take this job. And then 30 seconds later, 3 hours later, a day later, 5 days later, however long you can pick out your job, it gets canceled. And you're like, what? This one is one of the most common ones. I'll share the ones that are the most common versus other ones, but this is common, and my advice to you is that it is not your fault. It has nothing to do with you. Now, what happens is, as a teacher who has used Frontline, I have accidentally put in the wrong date and then realized it. Sometimes there has been meetings that were scheduled and canceled. Could have been an IEP meeting. It could have been just a general education meeting. Who knows? And it got canceled. So now they're going to be in the classroom that day. Maybe the teacher had a doctor appointment and that got canceled. So they're like, well, I might as well go to school. So that could happen. Another thing that could happen is they probably had asked someone, and that person was waiting in the system, and you happened to refresh and see the job as soon as it popped up, and you accepted it right before that person accepted it. Happened to me all the time. So, and when that happened, I will say that the teachers, when I was a sub in New York and here in Pennsylvania, the teachers were kind enough to let me know. They would text me or email me and say, hey, I just want to let you know this is what happened. This has nothing to do with you. Other times teachers just dismiss it and they're like, oh, that's we'll get a different job, So, but don't take it personal. There's always going to be other vacancies. Maybe other schools you can go to or whatever, or just, it's hard for me to just say, take the day. You're like, okay, like I was preparing and whatever. But yeah, don't take it personal. And that is common. So covering classes is another one that is super common. And so before I was a substitute teacher, I had seen this happen a few times, and I feel like it didn't happen as much before 2020, so before the whole lockdown. So it was always there, and I would see the teachers come in just like steaming, just like, I do not want to be here. This is my planning period, like I could just read their mind when I was a paraprofessional. And the reason they do it is because they need, legally, there has to be a teacher in the classroom. So they have to fill that classroom. And many times the secretary is kind about it. So first, before I say that, this happens to teachers too. And this happens to subs. So it's not just a substitute thing. So the secretary that I was with, she would say, hey, you are out of the group. So like our school, the high school, was set up in like hallway A, B, C, D, E, F. It's like a very long, with a lack of a better word, like a ranch house. Just like one floor of classrooms. And she would pick, if I was in B hall, which was like English, I think, and someone was out in C Hall, she would look at everybody's schedule, and then she would look at the substitute schedule, and she said, oh, Alexa has a period off. She could just bop right over to C. That's what I thought was respectful, is like, hey, you're closer to this. Instead of me going from A hall to F hall, which takes forever when the students are in there, in the building, and they have 4 minutes to get to class, and they have their backpacks. It's like, the secretaries tried to be very respectful of that. During 2020, it was like a crapshoot. We were all covering classes because everyone was sick, and there were times where the secretary would come in and she would warm up our lunch for us, teachers, substitute teachers, because that's how many people were out. And other people will just like, hey, you have this period off, you're covering this class. So it depends on how nice the secretary is. But I want you to know that this is a common occurrence that happens, not just with substitute teachers, but also with the teachers as well. And you can say no. You have boundaries. The only time I have said no is when a couple times I subbed for special education. And during the planning period, there was always, if I was in like resource per se, and then that planning period, I was supposed to read a test to a student, and that day they had a test. So when the secretary was like, hey, I need you to cover this class, I would say, hey, you know what? I actually was reading the lesson plans. I have a test center. I have to read a test to someone. And legally, if you have a student with an IEP who needs their test read, you need to do that. So I would say no. And I was able to get out of it. I was like, yay, I don't have to cover. But yeah, that's just something that happens. Okay, so this one is getting common, I would say. But it's a requirement that teachers do have lesson plans. But as a substitute teacher, I want you to know, if you're new or you're getting to be out of the new stage and like you're getting used to substitute teaching, yeah, it's required. But the thing is like, there can be an emergency in the middle of the night. That teacher could have died, for all we know. Someone in their family could have died. Their kid got sick and threw up everywhere at 3 a.m. Or they did. Or you don't know the scenario. So a lot of the times, like, teachers are not allowed to be like, you know what, F it, I'm not writing plans. No. They typically write plans. They have to write plans. But in those scenarios, when they don't have a plan, something may have come up. So just remember that those teachers are also human, and they're a human first. So if they didn't write lesson plans, it has nothing to do with you. It sucks on your end. In my opinion, bring other things to do for the kids. Ask if you're middle school, high school, ask to see the student's Blackboard or Google Classroom or Canvas and say, what are you doing? I need to see, one student, a student will be like, oh yeah, this is like what we're doing. That will be your best bet now that technology is here. Look around the classroom. If all else fails, give a study hall. This one, I feel like it's common, but I feel like secretaries and principals are being really respectful towards substitute teachers with a lockdown drill these days, or fire drills, whatever. Teachers are respectful in saying, hey, there's going to be a fire drill or a lockdown drill, whatever. My advice to you there is, if it's a complete surprise, I want you to learn from this, because here's the thing. This is the hard darn truth. If someone's going to shoot, no one's going to warn you. If someone's going to be violent, no one's going to just warn you. And think about that outside of school too. Like, that doesn't happen. You're not going to, hey, in 15 minutes, there's going to be a, like, no, that's not how it works. So I think it is a good idea. It sucks. It's a lot of anxiety, a lot of responsibility on you, especially if you like are new. And not even if you're new. To me, I scrambled and like, where's my keys? Meanwhile, they were like connected to my lanyard. It's like, it freaked me out. I didn't like it. But learn when that happens, and learn, okay, how quick was I, or where was my mind? What are my questions? There are police officers majority of the time in schools now, resource officers, which are police officers. Ask the principals, ask the other teachers, say, hey, I had this problem. What do I do? I don't want to really totally get into a story time, but I was in physical education when I was a substitute teacher. So I was with 11th and 12th grade students, and I was in a separate building. So like it's like a campus. And so I was meeting this. So the students were coming from the high school, crossing the parking lot, and they were going to the football field. And it was beneath the bleachers, underneath the bleachers, there's a rock climbing wall. And that's what I was doing with the students in phys ed. And so I was there, substitute teacher, day-to-day sub, and there were 2 kids. And I was like, where is everyone? And they're like, oh, I think there was a lockdown drill. And I was like, oh, okay. And like, knowing that they were safe because it was a drill, that's fine. They didn't tell me. So what I did is I wrote an email to the principal, and I said, and this was like halfway through the class, and now the kids are back, and now I had like 38 kids. And I said, hey, I'm in for so-and-so, and I just have this small concern, probably bigger than it should be, but I was told by a student that there was a lockdown drill. I was under the bleachers in phys ed and at the rock wall area. What should I have done in this situation? That principal, I kid you not, came right down when she read that email and was like, I am so sorry. I never thought of this. And she was like flustered, and I was like, it's okay. It's okay. Like, this is a learning experience. And like, honestly, if someone were to come into the school, they probably, unless they were a student, they probably wouldn't know about the under bleachers rock climbing wall. So ask whatever it is, because everybody's learning. This world is terrible, and we need to figure out ways to keep these students safe, and you. This one can be common. I don't think it's as common, but I wanted to put it on here because sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes a teacher would change a seating arrangement and then not, like, maybe they had it like in a notebook or something, and then you came in and they forgot about it. I've had it where I had a first semester one, and it was second semester. And I was like, okay, this is wrong. So if that happens, like, just take it with grace and be like, a lot of the times I feel like, at least in my district, the kids were like, no, this is where I sit. And don't like fight with them for that way. But what I would say is just go off the roster and excuse me, in that scenario. And then I would like write the teacher a note and say, hey, like, the kids were saying, like, they were kind of like insistent, this is where I sit, blah, blah, blah. If that's the case, that's the case. If you want to, you can even draw out how the classroom looks and say this is where they sat. That too. I don't know how common this is. I feel like I didn't get so many odd questions, but because I was in like high school at this point, so I feel like I didn't get too many questions, but I did get once like, why is your accent weird? And I was like, I have an accent because I'm from Pittsburgh. Like, I didn't think I had an accent. It's not like it's Nashville, Tennessee. I was like, oh, I was really excited about that one. I had weird questions sometimes because I was pregnant when I subbed. I would say answer them the best they can. If they're inappropriate, just shut it down. Say, mm-mm. Or say, okay, 2 people can ask questions. So 1 question each person. That's it. And then move on. There will be times when there's an assembly, pep rally thing. And it's like, seriously. So you will have like a weird schedule. Sometimes I would have schedules where it was the same schedule, but the kids were missing. So like I would literally sit there and be like, okay, at least I'm getting paid. But like, yeah, there's weird schedules. The secretary should tell you as soon as you walk in the room. Sometimes the teacher will put it in like a note, like I used Frontline, and the teacher would put it on there and say, hey, like weird schedule, ask the secretary. If you find that it's a weird schedule and you were not told, call the office and say, hey, what's the schedule? I need to know. That, like, communicate that. Let them know that. And it can be confusing. And just ask, like, wait, so are they going to lunch at this time? And then like, what do I pick them? Like, what do I do? What help me? So, just ask. Weird things happen. Someone knows the answer. Someone always will know the answer. I hope this eased your anxiety knowing that these common weird things happen to substitute teachers, and I want you to know that you're not alone. Give yourself grace if you make a mistake. Totally fine. And know that you're a difference maker. I believe in you, and I'll see you in this video.